Greetings and salutations. My name is Johnny Nato. Thank you for joining us here on Embrace Your Storm. We've got an awesome episode for you as always. Before we get to that, though, wow, okay. Before we get to that, don't forget to create an account on the website, embraceyourstorm.com. You can send your emails to hello@embraceyourstorm.com. Looking forward to hearing your comments, criticisms, and critiques. And so today, we've got an awesome episode for you today. We're speaking with Rock, and he is the owner of Fiber Tone Guitars, where he makes carbon fiber guitars. So, Rock, thanks for coming on today.
Uh, Thank you for inviting me, Jonathan.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to this discussion. But before we get too much into like what brought you to playing carbon or to creating carbon fiber guitars, do you actually like play guitar? Do you play bass? Do you play any instruments? Like, what were you doing that before before you started like building guitars?
Um, so I come from a family where most of my relatives are singers, but there are a couple of guitarists also, and my father played the guitar, and it wasn't until I turned 15 that I decided that maybe with the guitar in my hand it would be uh, easier to get a girlfriend. So that's how that's what
You,
got me started,
you
I
know
guess.
what's really funny, Rock? That the last interview I did was with a gentleman, and he actually said kind of the same thing. I was like, "Oh, what?" I asked him, "What made you want to start playing guitar?" And he said, "Well, in high school, there was this guy that was really shy and quiet, and one day he was playing guitar, and all these girls were around him." And he was like, I need to start playing guitar.
Uh,
So how did that work out for you, Rock, in high school? Did you gather all the ladies around you?
well, I guess I was swapping them as fast I was swapping my guitars because I wasn't I wasn't pleased with them.
What kind of music were you playing? Like what kind of bands were you listening to?
um, I've always been a fan of the 50s, 60s, 70s, not
Nice.
so much
Okay.
the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like all this. And I also like the dance. So
Nice.
yeah, I like swing music and
So that's kind of like
and
30s and 40s music, right? The swing stuff, right?
well, it can be also the 60s, like
Okay.
rockabilly stuff.
Okay.
You can dance not just Lindy Hop, but boogie woogie or
Okay.
Balboa and stuff like that. So, yeah, not just 30s and 40s. I don't like 30s and 40s as much as
That's
later
more
periods.
that's more of kind of big band swing kind of stuff, I guess, right? Like the 30s and
Yeah,
40s.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not much of a fan of that music. Maybe mostly because it wasn't recorded as
Mm.
well.
Mm. What so kind of back to your guitar, what was the first guitar that you had? Like, do you remember that guitar? Do you still have it?
So my first guitar, yeah, I do have my
That's
first
cool.
guitar.
That's cool.
Because the first guitar I used was my father's guitar, which was built in our former country, Yugoslavia.
Oh, no kidding.
So I was just 2 years old when uh, we got our independence. Um, so
So
yeah,
do you remember that much that at all?
actually I remember it's actually my first memory. We had like Yugo car. Maybe you heard of it.
Yo, yeah, 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 I have.
Yeah, so we had that, and I locked myself inside the car, and like Army was like, I don't know, half a kilometer away.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding
And
me?
yeah, I locked myself in the car and I started honking, and my mom couldn't get me out, and then the army came and they surrounded our home, and
Oh my goodness.
my mom would be throwing that under my nose for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Because that's what that because they were coming to bring you your independence. Is that why the army was there like that?
Well, actually, I don't know which army was there.
Yeah,
I guess everyone was on their toes, anxious
yeah,
and so on. So it was a 10-day war. So uh, it
man,
wasn't really serious. So
that's
I
pretty
mean,
crazy though.
there was tension, but not a lot of shooting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's crazy. So, so like if you started playing guitar when you were 15 and you had your dad's guitar, um, like I'm assuming
Yeah.
you're kind of in and out of bands or whatever. So like what made you decide and how old were you to be like, hey, instead of playing guitars, I think I kind of want to make one. Like what kind of brought you to that like kind of thinking?
So I was working summers and afternoons and weekends to make some money, and most of that money would go for guitars. And I was always buying something new, something better, and something more expensive, till it got to a point where um, I had neck heavy guitars, or the neck didn't feel right, and um, stuff like that
Yeah,
bothered me, and it brought me to a point where I said, I had it, I'm just gonna make a guitar myself. And my initial plan wasn't to start the guitar business. It was like, I'm gonna make myself a guitar. And I decided to start making this guitar for myself when I was 18, so 3 years after I started playing. And it took me 7 years to uh, make the tools which allowed for this guitar to be made. So I still have that guitar,
that's cool.
and yeah, it's I'm not selling it. I'm keeping it. Um, and yeah, once I it was made, people told me like, "Wow, that's a great instrument. I love to have one too." And that was 10 years ago.
So
And
what made you like wanna even approach using carbon fiber as the material? Because I mean, like you said, you've only been playing guitar for 3 years, and you already made the decision. Like, you know what? Instead of kind of buying these other guitars and kind of fixing them up or making them the way I want, and there always being something maybe I don't like about it. Why not just start from scratch? So, like, never mind building a guitar from scratch. Like with regular material alone, that's a task all onto its own. But then like you really sort of up the ante by being like, no, let's just make the whole guitar out of carbon fiber. Like, how do you even go about like starting to even do something like that?
so yeah, the biggest concern I had with was the neck, because I wanted to have a slim neck that could withstand the tension of 12 gauge strings. And yeah, I started researching materials, and I was looking for a wood that best uh, mm, works against the forces of the strings when they're in tune.
Mm,
And then I came across, I was also thinking about using T profiles of aluminum and so on. So yeah, I came across carbon fiber, and so I decided to make the neck first. Well, and then I would take this neck to a local luthier, and he would make the body for my guitar,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
that would be it. But yeah, once I learned how to make the neck, uh, and how to make the model and then the mold and then the neck. I learned so much that I decided to make the whole guitar out of carbon fiber. So that's how I got started.
When you would bring the neck to the other guitar luthiers, were they like, "Whoa, this is cool"? Like were they impressed with seeing you the neck that you made?
No, that didn't even happen because often in life, as with other things, I would say, is that you have the initial plan and then the road takes you
Mm,
maybe completely other places.
yeah, that's
Because
true.
yeah, uh, I never thought that making myself a guitar would lead me to having a guitar making business. So
Yeah,
yeah, I never
actually
really.
kind of it's actually kind of funny because like you literally like a lot of people, you know, or there's that like the saying of about inventing something like you scratch your own itch, you know, and like that's what you're doing. Like you're it's kind of, you know, it's funny. Your intention doing this wasn't, hey, I'm gonna start this guitar manufacturing company or whatever. Like you literally just wanted to make one for yourself, but then these other people were like, "Hey, that's awesome! Like, I want one." And you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I could do that." But then I think you were saying before the interview, for the last like 3 or 4 years, you've had steady like orders with no advertising, you know, and you've been staying busy doing that, right?
Yeah.
I mean that's impressive. I mean, seriously, like that's really impressive. Like you're obviously doing something right.
Uh, well, I try. I definitely try.
How many tries did it take like with the neck when you were building it? I mean, did you like how many necks did you build or whatever to kind of get the right working one?
So the neck is like I'm still I'm still researching because still after 10 years,
No, I
um,
hear I get that.
when I build something, I will overbuild it,
Mm,
and I'm slowly starting to reduce the weight because my guitars weigh approximately as much as the wooden ones do.
mm,
But my like the biggest weight factors are the the tuners and the counterweight in the bottom of the guitar, so that when you hold my guitar in when you're sitting, it's gonna be balanced. Yeah, it won't be neck heavy.
okay, yeah, I hate
Uh,
it. I hate it when a guitar neck dives. That drives me crazy.
yeah, so the tuners weigh around uh, 258 grams,
Mm,
like the ones that I use. And to counterweight that, I use 300 grams uh, weights on the bottom of the guitar. So that's almost 600 grams already.
yeah.
And the guitar weighs around 2 kilos. So uh, more than a quarter of the weight of the guitar, like almost a third, is just tuners and the counterweight for the tuners. So
With the neck being carbon fiber, are you still using like a like rosewood like inlays and stuff like that, or is like are the frets and stuff like etched into like the neck?
I first I laminate two pieces of carbon fiber. So the bottom half, which is the one that is visible,
Mm,
and the upper one, um, which is a surface to which the head plate and the fretboard are glued to. And I use rich light. It's phenolic resin
Mm.
and paper.
Huh.
So it's like black paper,
Okay.
which is laminated using phenolic resin, and they press that under heat, and you get a really strong boards. I think they mostly use them for skate parks.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think Martin uses rich light materials now for their
Okay.
fretboards, so
That's
it's becoming
interesting.
more and more used.
So that it's like
So
so it's almost like I don't know if you call it a man-made material or whatever.
it is, yeah,
Okay. That's
yeah,
interesting. That's
yeah.
interesting.
What I like about it is that it is um, yeah, it's not affected by chemicals
Okay.
and also by water. I mean, I guess it would soak up some of the water, but it's not as sensitive as
Oh, so
wooden
that's interesting. So if you're like sweating and
fretboards.
stuff on the fretboard,
Yeah,
it wouldn't get
and
all
yeah, it wouldn't also won't affect the um, it won't soak up the humidity, and
mm.
it doesn't move as much as wood does
Huh.
because when it dries, I guess it um, you'll get edges of um, if the fretboard doesn't have binding, uh, you can you can feel the edges of the frets.
Okay, okay.
So
So
uh,
so
yes.
like I'm still kind of like baffled by you know, like at the age of 18 again like working with like a carbon fiber I'd imagine it's you got there's probably a learning curve to that but like dealing with like how did you even like do the homework on like like how do I build molds for carbon fiber and like then you have to figure out it like I don't know it's fascinating how you I guess where there's a will, there's a way, and people just figure out how to do stuff, right?
Yeah,
But like, cause like with me, I'm just like, I don't even know how I do that. So it's like, maybe there's someone in the audience listening saying, "Hey, I want to build whatever, but I don't know how I'd go about it." I mean, so like, how did you like start doing homework? Did you start doing homework and like how to interact with carbon fiber? I mean, where do you even begin?
so you said where there's a will, there's a way,
Yeah.
which are exact words that I would use. But now that you were talking some more, I recall the words of Einstein, who said, "I'm not smarter than anybody else. I'm just more persistent with the problem."
Mm,
So
mm.
yeah, I just persisted because when uh, when I set my mind on something, I guess I just won't quit and I'll just keep on researching.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we were talking before the interview, and so we were doing the math. So like, you finished your first guitar 10 years ago, but you started it 7 years before that. So 17 years ago, I mean, there probably wasn't too much Google searching on how to like do this. That's what I mean. Like, you were kind of
Oh.
ahead of the curve and you still kind of are in some senses probably. So like that's what I mean. Like how do you
I guess all I my father was a pilot, and
mm,
I'm a well, I used to fly more. I guess I would still call myself a pilot. So I have a glider pilot's
that's
license.
cool. That's cool.
So modern glider planes are made from composite materials. So
Okay.
So I guess I kind of joined these two passions also.
I see. That makes okay, that makes a little more sense too then, where you kind of got the idea like, hey, I should use this like, this other kind of material or whatever. Like I could see you getting that now then.
But actually, it was what got me into composites was were guitars. It actually wasn't uh, gliders, but I did start uh, uh, working in companies which um, which used composite materials,
Mm.
and the processes involved were sanding, spraying,
Okay, so
lacquer.
you got some kind of like experience messing around with stuff that gave you more of the ideas to work with.
Yeah, because for the first 7 years, when I was making myself a guitar, it was all the afternoons and weekends that
Right.
my jobs allowed me to work on those guitars, and it would often be more than 100 hours a month that I would invest into this. Uh, so there was a lot of will there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. That's like I guess that kind of brings me into, fiber tone guitars now. We were talking before because you were saying, you could make kind of one guitar a month before your latest news, but now you're going to be venturing into other types of carbon fiber guitars now, right? You want to like talk a little
uh,
bit about that?
yeah, so for the last, what, 10 years, yeah, I've I've been focused on making custom carbon fiber archtop guitars, and for the last 7 months, I've been working towards um, offering um, flat top guitars that are going to be like they, of course, people will be able to customize them, but most of clients in general, I think, are not so focused into buying something custom made. They just usually want a guitar.
Yeah, I think a lot
So
of people are just kind of like, show me a picture of it. And I'll tell you if I want to buy that one or not. I think a lot of people don't understand the decisions that go into like choosing every little thing when it comes down to an instrument like that, you know?
yeah, exactly. So that's why I started focusing on that. Uh, so yeah, in a couple of months, I will have finished the six uh, prototypes, and I will remake my website into a web shop, and I still hope to keep the waiting time around 3 months.
Yeah, that's
Um,
still not that's not bad at all. A 3 month time for technically a custom guitar. I mean, that's a good turnaround.
yeah.
With the flat top, just in case someone doesn't know, can you explain what the difference is between an arch top and a flat top?
So a flat top has a flat black back and top plates,
Mm.
and the arch tops have arched backs and tops. And because of that, the neck also meets the body at an angle of around 4 degrees, and the sound is also different. Uh, Arch tops are not a synonym for long sustain,
Mm.
and they have a different tone too. So, uh,
Yeah, you were saying you're more of a fan of the arch top guitars, right?
true, yeah. But I would also like to offer my flat tops. Um,
Do you also make basses too, or do you just make guitars?
Actually, no, I'm not. I don't plan on offering basses.
Okay.
In the future, I might. I did make one bass guitar for somebody who wanted to have uh, a certain brand of bass and a certain model, but the company wouldn't offer it in left hand uh, setup. So he contacted me if I would make him one, and I decided to try it, and I did. And he
That's
was
cool.
he wrote me such a review that I was embarrassed to post it. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. I mean, they were.
Is it quite different making a neck for a bass guitar than a regular guitar?
Um, no, no,
Okay. I
it's
wasn't sure if
not.
like the tension of the strings or whatever made any kind of difference or whatever.
Actually, yeah, I did use a lot more material than I would for a guitar.
Okay.
Uh, Maybe I was uh, overconfident when I when I started. Yeah,
So that's cool though. They made at least one bass guitar.
yeah, and I noticed that a lot of how the guitar plays and sounds comes from the way it's set up.
Mm.
You will notice a quality instrument by pressing uh, with your left hand on the first field and with your little finger on your right hand.
Mm.
And if you use your thumb to check how much relief there is on the 12th fret, you should see the difference between the first and the sixth string. And the first string should have just a little relief when the sixth has to have more.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you see that in a guitar, you know that it's nicely set up.
There you go. Okay. That's cool. I never knew that actually.
Well, there's um, I guess we could talk uh, about construction and uh, the process, or
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
totally. I mean, if I don't know if you want to give away your secret sauce or not, but if you wanted to talk about what it's like building one, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess my guitars are different to other guitars on the market because my molds allow for a lot of customization, while other brands will use molds that where the body and neck are already joined. Um, there's some advantages to that, but there's also some disadvantages. I like to be able to play with the body's thickness. So um, I have my processes of uh, how I can adjust the thickness of the body, and people think that it's like you just put everything in the mold and vacuum it and cure it at 100 or I don't know whatever temperature. Um, yeah, but there's a lot of lamination and handwork involved.
Mm, mm,
So it's not just pop out of the mold thing. There's cutting of the the plates and
and like sanding down
um,
stuff and all that.
sanding, uh, making grooves for the binding, um,
So that makes
making.
sense. That makes sense then if you're doing like a neck through body kind of thing, you can't mess with the thickness of it because then that messes with like the neck itself too. So like you'd have to adjust everything if you adjusted the thickness of the body with the neck through. Is that what you're saying?
Well, other companies will have a mold for the whole guitar. I
Mm,
have mold for the sides, for the top and the back, and for the neck.
mm.
So it's made more in a traditional way. But these molds, like other companies, will have a neck and the back joined together. And
Oh, okay.
because of the mold has to have a open angle so that they can
Right, they can fit right in the
get the
body.
guitar out of
Yeah,
the mold.
yeah.
So yeah, because of that shape, it's also it would require extra work to have uh, the back made if they wanted to change the thickness of the guitar. So yeah, I wasn't so focused on making just one model or two because I always wanted to be able to offer a thinner body or a thicker one if somebody wanted to have a thicker or thinner guitar
Mm.
so they could play with the thickness of the body, which also affects the sound and the whole purpose of the guitar.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
totally. And I guess it makes sense that you did it that way too, because again, you didn't open up by doing this because you had the idea of building like a guitar company. You had people asking you, "Oh, hey, could you make me one or make me this?" And you were probably thinking, "Okay, people are asking me to do different things, different bodies or whatever. What's going to be the easiest way to make this flexible?" It sounds like that's kind of the reason why you approached it that way. I'm assuming.
yeah, it's interesting that you say it because I never thought of I never thought of that actually, and it's a really great observation. Because mostly most companies will go into, okay, so here's this concept guitar, and here's the mold, and
Right. No,
we'll make
exactly.
it and advertise it.
Yeah, like because the
Uh,
guitar company's like, hey, we have an idea of, this body style and shape and all that. We want people to buy, our guitar brand X or whatever. But again, you didn't have that in mind. So like that's why it's interesting. Like maybe subconsciously you approached building them this way because of that. I don't know, but I think that works out to your advantage, in my opinion.
well, I guess it just makes me different from the rest of
Yeah,
the
no, totally.
companies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And again, it's pretty impressive you can turn around, technically a custom guitar in 3 months. I mean, that's why I'm kind of a huge fan of G&L guitars. I don't know if you're aware of they're not too big like in Europe and outside of the US, I think, but G&L Guitars was the last company Leo Fender put together. It was they started in the 80s or whatever, but like, they had gone through obviously even up until now still. But the cool thing about G&L is like you can get their like USA, series or branded guitars. They don't sell any of them like in the stores. Like they're literally all made to spec. It's like so any person that wants like a G&L kind of like USA guitar, they literally have to kind of like it's almost like building a custom guitar. They have to pick like the neck and what body style they want and all that stuff. So they literally are kind of getting a custom guitar without like the actual custom guitar tag on it. And they go for about $1,500 and they turn it around in like 3 months or so. So again, that's why it's impressive. Like here, and you got a one man kind of show, or maybe you have one or two employees coming up soon or whatever. But like you're still able to turn these around pretty quickly. So that's still pretty impressive.
Uh, well, I initially it took me a longer, but with all the tools that I made, uh, I was able to speed up the process.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in some Facebook groups, uh, luthier clubs, and so on.
Mm.
And I I saw a post where somebody wrote like making guitar is mostly making tools, and yeah, it's true. There's a lot of tools that are customized for a certain process.
So do you still live in not Yugoslavia because it's not called that anymore, obviously. It's Slovakia. Is that where you live now? Is that what it's called?
No, Slovenia.
Slovenia. Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay. So do you
Yeah,
st is
Slovenia is in Central Europe, and its neighboring countries are Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia. So
hmm,
yeah,
that's cool. So then you
it's
live
a
there your
small
so then you lived there
it's
your
a
whole
small
life?
it's a small country, yeah, and I've lived uh, in Germany for half a year, where I was working on glider planes.
That's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing really because I do speak some German, but um, yeah, it was also on the countryside, and there were small villages and not a lot of people, so it really wasn't my
That
wasn't.
wasn't your speed of life.
Yeah, not really, no.
Do you visit Italy much?
I Yeah, I've been there several times to uh, Florence, and to for holiday I've been to a really tiny island south of Sicily called Pantelleria, and it's beautiful there.
That's cool. So do you travel like around, like you said, the neighboring countries? Do you travel to any of those much at all? Or do you just
Um,
stay in Slovenia like mostly?
no, I will go to Croatia in the summer. Like in May, I've been to Egypt.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, and because of COVID and regulations at the time, I before that I've been to America three
Uh,
times.
That's cool. What brought you over
Yeah,
here?
guitars.
That's of
So
course, right?
like in the process of making guitars, I met some amazing people with whom I'm still in contact with, even though it's been 4 or 5 years that I haven't seen them,
Mm,
or they had. Like just today, I spoke with a friend from Pennsylvania, uh, and he uses his carbon fiber guitar that I made for him. He calls it a rocktar.
that's cool.
So yeah, he plays it on his porch. Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that must be kind of cool. Like I'm sure like customers must reach out to you every now and then or something, just be like, "Oh, thanks so much. I love this thing," or whatever. Like that must feel like pretty good.
Yeah, it does, and it also feels good when people will commission me for a second or maybe even their third guitar.
Yeah,
So
no, totally.
and
Yeah.
I mean sometimes it's I gotta make a living, and sometimes it's hard when yeah, when you feel like you're making a guitar for a friend. So and I love making guitars, and yeah, it's a nice business.
What would you say to like what kind of like encouragement or info would you give someone that maybe they want to start getting into, building guitars or maybe like pedals or I don't know, whatever. Like what would you say to that person if they wanted to get started? They didn't know what to do.
Well, like you said, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah,
And if you love something, I guess you'll persist naturally. It won't be hard. You'll lack in motivation at times, but after you get a good night's rest, if you love something, there won't be anything keeping you away from what you
that
love doing.
that's very true, Rock. Honestly, yeah. Like I remember I interviewed a guy that he created this company called Death by Audio, and he created these a bunch of like stomp pedals and other various kind of like pedals. And I was like, how did you get started? He's like, man, he's like, this was before the internet. And he was like, I would go to the library and I would read books on all this like electronic stuff. He's like, I had no clue what I was reading. He's like, 80% of what I read, I didn't even understand. But he's like, I had to learn it. And like, so like you said, there's going to be this drive in you that won't let you quit. It won't let you stop. But I think the most important thing is for whoever's listening, you need to just start though. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to like put one
Yeah,
foot
yeah,
one foot in front of the other and start taking steps, you know?
yeah. And I guess the biggest um, point where people quit is when they figure out how much they do not
Mm,
know about something,
mm.
and when they see how much work is involved um, in doing in learning an instrument, for example, um, or making guitars also. Um, but yeah, if you take it step at a time, you'll you'll conquer any mountain.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Um, yeah, Rock, I appreciate your time and coming on and letting us find out more about fiber tone guitars. Is there anything else, any kind of closing words or anything else you wanted to say to the listeners before we head on out here?
No, just thank you for your attention and to listening to my story.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome. Like I said, you know what? And I said this before the interview, and I want to say this again. It was really impressive that, an 18-year-old would have started a venture like this and taken 7 years to create the first thing they embarked on, 7 years later. Like that alone says a lot about your character. And I think that has a lot to do with why you are where you are now. So it's very impressive, Rock, that you started this venture. So I wish you a continued well on your journeys here.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, my pleasure. And everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and we're going to see you next episode. And don't forget to embrace your storm. See ya.